The world views the energy transition as certainly one of the biggest opportunities of the century. That is building new energy infrastructure. It is revamping, refurbishing, modernizing existing energy infrastructure. And certainly there's a big theme that's emerged over the last couple of years as we emerge from the pandemic of more of everything, and certainly more of what it is that we know how to do and that we know how to do well. I'm joined by Dan Brouillette. Dan is the president of Sempra Infrastructure. And we're going to discuss, how we're preparing for all of these, the big challenges and the huge opportunities that lay ahead of us. Dan, thanks so much for joining me today.
Paul, great to be with you. I look forward to the conversation. More importantly, thank you for the partnership that we have between our two companies. As we mentioned before, it's been a long partnership. It's been a very fruitful partnership. And together, I think we have many, many bright days ahead of us.
Yeah, we absolutely do. We're extremely excited to be working together on Port Arthur LNG. And, some of the really exciting things about that is making, the US Gulf Coast has become a real center for the production of LNG, which is, a cleaner fuel that's going all over the world, and particularly in the Port Arthur community. Dan and myself and the Sempra team, we did some really exciting events with community stakeholders, elected officials, and the Port Arthur community is welcoming the project. They recognize the tremendous opportunity that this brings, and really the world is coming to Port Arthur for this to be a major source of natural gas that's going to be delivered all over the world. We're really excited to be a part of that with you.
So are we, Paul. You're absolutely right. The Port Arthur LNG project that you and I are working together on, our two companies are working together on, is an incredibly important opportunity for America to serve its allies, not only in Europe, but in Asia as well. But also for the people of Port Arthur, for the people of Texas, it's an incredible economic opportunity as well. The number of jobs that are going to be created there as a result of this project are just enormous. And I think even beyond completion of phase one of this project, we can begin to look at things like phase two and perhaps either other phases of the project as well, which will continue to provide employment to these communities all throughout Texas. But Paul, you opened up in your comments with a very important statement, and that is, as the world continues to grow, as the population of the world continues to grow, as the economies continue to grow, there is a need for more and more energy. And not only oil and gas, but renewable energy, hydrogen forms of energy, perhaps nuclear energy, all types of energy. It's going to require us to continue to add to the energy portfolio. And what that means at the end of the day, Paul, at least to me and for Sempra Infrastructure, is that we have an incredible need for infrastructure here in the United States and perhaps elsewhere in the world. Because as we have learned, the United States now is the largest producer of oil and gas. We know how to do this here in America. Our challenge at the moment is actually getting the products to the markets that they need to serve. So additional pipeline capacity, additional export capacity, like the project that you and I are working on at Port Arthur, are absolutely critical to supplying the world's energy needs. And as we look at it, we'll see more and more energy coming online. And then I think what we'll also see, Paul, is more and more innovation coming online. Things like hydrogen, things like carbon capture, things like sequestration of carbon. All of those are exciting steps forward in the energy portfolio and the energy world in which we both live.
And I think, Dan, we've been on a really interesting journey just in the last few years. As we entered into the pandemic, there was a huge swing away from hydrocarbons. It really put a lot of emphasis on renewable power generation. But as the world emerged again from the pandemic and started to open up for business, the pent-up frustration that existed, that need to develop new energy infrastructure, I think that really helped us restrike some of the balance here. Brought LNG back to the forefront once again as a cleaner fuel, an alternative that moves the world away from heavier hydrocarbons, that satiates the need to supply affordable, secure energy between allies, which is really helping to stimulate economies the world over, whilst also moving away from heavy hydrocarbons, moving away from the polluting fuels, which have been the flywheel of our industry for for several decades, specifically heavy fuel oils, coal and the like. But certainly as we look towards the future, and hydrogen, ammonia, methanol, many of these new sources of fuel, none of which themselves are new and the production of which is new, but we're striving to figure out how to make them in a cleaner, more sustainable way, while the value chains, the ultimate consumers of these products, also have to rewire themselves and reconfigure themselves, because facilities and infrastructure to receive those products doesn't yet exist. The ways to consume those products don't yet exist, but technology is advancing at an incredible rate, and it's really it's incumbent on all of us to be ready. But we can't hit the pause button while we wait for that future, more nascent state of our energy infrastructure to develop itself. We've got to be doing what we know how to do now, whilst also investing in that future, working together with academic institutions, with governments, with regulatory environments, policymakers, lawmakers, all of which working together is going to help us figure out what that future state is ultimately going to be. But here today, LNG is a great way of advancing the energy transition, advancing energy security, and making it affordable so that we continue to satiate the demand for energy as the world continues to grow and to develop.
I couldn't agree more, Paul. LNG has a vital role to play in the energy diversification that's occurring around the world, but also with regard to the 2030 and 2050 goals, the environmental goals that have been set not only by countries, by individual companies like Bechtel, like Sempra Infrastructure. LNG has an important role to play as well. The largest emissions reductions from the energy world that we have seen over the course of the last 2, perhaps even 3 decades, has been the displacement of heavier hydrocarbons, like you mentioned earlier. The use of natural gas instead of fuel oil, the use of natural gas instead of coal has produced the largest emission reductions that the world has seen. And I think as we continue that progress, we not only continue the environmental stewardship that we all want, we also provide the security of energy supply that the world also wants, especially in light of the events most recently in Europe with Russia and Ukraine. So what we're seeing is natural gas play a more and more vital role in the marketplace. And I think that creates an enormous opportunity for all of us who are in this business.
It really does, Dan, the tragedy of the war in the Ukraine, the far-reaching impacts of that across Europe and the world, has certainly seen even natural gas supply chains evolve over the last few years. But it's clear there's still a large demand for it, and who knows, as we know how to build liquefaction infrastructure, we know how to build the receiving infrastructure. Maybe there's still a future state for LNG as a hydrogen carrier. Maybe that's just me speculating a little bit on the future, but we know how to make these affordable. We have the skills and the ability to be able to develop these facilities, and of course, between all of our organizations working together, developing these new technologies, it's really exciting to be a part of that. And we're really excited to be working together with Sempra and the vision that you have to be a major provider of energy to the world. And it's not just that it's in the here and now, but that future state, it's really exciting for us to be a part of. And as an EPC contractor, we design and we build the facilities. We too have our own goals around our climate commitments on actually being a net zero constructor, which is figuring out how do we build these facilities with a lower carbon footprint? How do we really, ask the social license to operate? That's the contractor and the owner of the facility working together to be welcomed into the communities where we're developing these facilities, reducing our footprint, and really not just building exciting infrastructure, but building a legacy that stays behind it, of training, development, upskilling, getting kids in schools in our local communities excited in STEM and sciences. And all of this is the tentacles of the development of this new existing and new energy infrastructure that's just really exciting to be a part of.
You're exactly right, Paul. The second, third, fourth order effects of these projects are enormous. So, we do the same thing at Sempra Infrastructure, much like Bechtel. We work with the local community. Together, we worked on Port Arthur. We've done that in other facilities as well. The development of talent pipelines by supporting curriculums and other educational resources within the local community colleges, within the local colleges, even beginning as early as high school. Absolutely critical to our future in these communities. And it's very important, obviously, to the local community as well. But we love partnering with these communities because, as you mentioned earlier, it is important that we belong to the community in which we work and we operate. And we strive hard to do that at Sempra. But I think also, Paul, you mentioned a couple of other ideas and a couple of things that are coming along. When we build this infrastructure with you, we don't view it in a very short-term environment. We view it for the long run. We view it for the long term. And that's why we're really excited about not only liquefaction projects that we have, but also the pipeline projects that we're developing and even some of the renewable projects that we're developing. And what I mean by that is that, we hope that over time, with the advancement of things like material science, we can potentially use these pipelines for the carrying of hydrogen or the transport of hydrogen. And obviously, as the world continues to add more and more renewable capacity, we see an increased demand for things like natural gas. So we're excited about that trend. We're excited about that move toward renewable energy because, as you well know, Paul, today's battery technology does not support grid scale and long duration production of electricity. So to the extent that there are additional renewable requirements on the grid, there's also a requirement for additional base load or firm power. And that can be provided by natural gas very, very easily, very cost effectively, and very securely.
I think back over Bechtel's history building LNG facilities, which is 5 or 6 decades. And you look at the footprint, the physical size and the capacity of facilities and the energy that was consumed to make a unit of LNG, and you compare that to the technology we have today in the same footprint, 2 to 3 times the capacity, significantly less energy consumption in producing that same unit of LNG, which again, it speaks down to just the advancements in technology. And it's it's been really amazing to see all these things happen, such things as inlet air chilling on our turbo machinery, which it's tantamount to a turbocharger in a car, which is all about increasing efficiency. You get more power for the same amount of fuel. Capturing the waste heat, figuring out how to reuse that waste heat rather than combustion in another part of the plant to generate the heat, but actually concentrating that thermal efficiency that's inside the facilities. So I'm sure we will see electrical equipment becoming more and more a part. I'm sure we'll see hydrogen and other fuel sources used to power that machinery as we work to make that production of natural gas even cleaner going forward. But again, it just speaks to the pace of technology, which is just it's accelerating and accelerating, and it's going to be the future of how we produce our energy. But bringing it back to the present moment, we've got a huge project right in front of us. We've got a community that is incredibly excited that we're there. It's tantamount on us now to actively involve the community in the project. The support has to be reciprocated with support from ourselves. We're really excited to be building it. We're well into earthworks on the project now. We're well into buying equipment, buying materials. Engineering's really well progressed, and it's not going to be that long before we start to see shiny pieces of equipment and steel and pipe coming out the ground, and this thing taking shape to be a facility that's on a world scale, that's going to service the world with clean energy for many decades to come. And Dan, we want to thank you for entrusting us with building this fantastic facility for you and Sempra Infrastructure.
Well, thank you, Paul. We're proud to be your partner as well. You, Bechtel, you have a long history in building LNG projects, not only in the United States, but again, all around the world. You know what you're doing. You're very good at what you do, and we're proud to be your partner. This particular project, I cannot overstate its importance to the world market right at the moment. Phase one is completely sold out. That gas will go all over the world. A lot of it will find its way to Europe. We feel strongly that it will not only help Europe meet its environmental goals, but it will provide an additional layer of security for Europe, for German partners, our UK partners, our French partners. This is important for their national security, and this project is key to their national security. So we're very proud to be able to build this with you, and we look very much forward to the day in which we ship that first gas out of Texas.